best leaders, they care about other people. It's not just about them, it's about the other people. So a lot of leaders, founders are trying to get what's theirs, but you can grow and scale through helping other people get theirs.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Build to Billions podcast, where we guide successful entrepreneurs and investors on the journey from millions to billions. We believe the key to scaling and compounding your wealth starts every single day with the mindset and practice of stewardship over ownership and applying billionaire biblical principles. Our ultimate goal is to help you scale and compound your wealth in life so you can give more or all of it away to help MVPs. My name is Brett Swartz. Each and every episode, we're joined by some of the world's top entrepreneurs, millionaires or billionaires, where they share their insights, secrets, and wisdom with us so we can scale and make a bigger impact. I'm excited about our next guest. He's out of the great state of North Carolina, and he's the founder of an extraordinary financial advisors, XFA, a premier coaching and consulting firm for financial advisors who want to boost their growth and profitability. With over 25 plus years of experience, he has worked with some of the top tier advisors, including Barron's Top 100 and Hall of Fame advisors. His team helps advisors streamline their practice for 10x growth and beyond, and so much more. Please welcome to the show with me, Mr. Jon Randall. Jon, how are we doing?
Awesome to be here, Brett.
Excellent. For our listeners getting to know you for the first time, would you give us just a little bit more about your story and your current focus?
So I was one of these people. I was an advisor just like the people we work with. And actually, when I moved to North Carolina back in 2004, kind of launched this journey of helping others, helping other advisors do not just what I did, but where others were doing. And I never thought I would be on this path of doing this. I just sort of stumbled into it and fell in love with it, helping other advisors not just grow, but grow with more profitability. And now it's about scaling, to build the financial advisor business to $1 billion plus in assets, which is what a lot of them, where they want to go. It's a completely different game than just being a financial advisor. It's more of an entrepreneurial game. It's about leveraging others and scaling. So there's a lot of things holding people back from getting there, which is what we'll dive into today. Excellent.
And let's, kind of maybe start with that. What are the top, mistake that someone's making if they want to scale their practice or business, in this scenario, we're focusing on financial advisors from $1 million to 10 million, and then we'll keep moving up.
There's one glaring one that stands out above them all, and it's capacity. So we've based our program based on the theory of constraints. What are the things that are holding practices back? And it's so funny because practice advisors will just say, I just need a lot of new clients. That'll get me there. I just need the next practice acquisition. That will get me there. But if they're not growing through a lot of just organic growth, we know that, okay, there's something wrong with what they're doing in delivery. That's not very referable. They're not really doing a great job at clients. And when you peel the onion back further, you look at the main issues, capacity. It's usually the owner, the founder, who's the growth engine, has too much on their plate. So that's the single biggest limiter right there. The other limiting factor is the other side of the coin of capacity. If you're going to grow and scale this business to over $1 billion in AUM, you need to leverage the capacity of other people. So owners and founders usually underutilize other people on their team. They might start out by dumping the smaller clients onto somebody else, which helps them out, but it doesn't really, there's no profit margin there on making an investment on another person. So that capacity there is the whole key to scaling. Those have crossed over many billions. We have some with 15 billion in assets they manage, doing well over 100 million in revenue. Their secret is they figured out the leverage of other people. They're trying to get advisors to manage $1 million to $1.5 million of revenue that they own. They're paying them a industry average rate, more than the advisor would make on their own. So it's a mutually beneficial arrangement, but the key is revenue per advisor. How much are they managing for your firm? That's the whole profit driver in the scaling game in the financial advisor business.
Okay, this is making a lot of sense. By the way, if you want to learn more, Mr. Jon Randall, you go to XFA.coach/build it, XFA.coach/build it. Okay, so it's capacity for the founder, and it's capacity for those that he hires and brings onto the team to manage that. So let's, I guess, maybe break that down a little bit more succinctly. So how do you define capacity? And then how do you leverage others, first yourself and then others to maximize that?
So I always love industry averages, helps frame this out. And we buy a lot. One of my favorites is the Investment News Study because it goes very, very deep on specifics. So let's look at the stats for founders or owners and then stats for advisors working on a team. So for founders and owners, they're typically only working with 96 clients on average. So if you're listening, you want to scale, how many clients are you working with? If it's multiple hundreds, you're probably the constraint. You look at our Barron's Top 100, Barron's Top 10 that we work with, they have a very small amount of clients on their plate. In fact, one of our Barron's Hall of Fame advisors has not been in a client meeting for 14 years now. Because they know for me to grow this thing, I can't be saddled in that. I can hire people that can do a great job as an advisor. So the number of client relationships on your plate, that's the most time-consuming thing in this business. That's the first thing to look at. The other definition in constraint or industry average is the people working on your team, specifically the advisors on your team. So on average, the industry average, they're managing close to $1 million in revenue with 146 client relationships. So they're quality clients, right? These are not dumping the small clients on them. They're decent quality clients that they're working with. And so that's duplicatable. You can help them work with higher revenue per client. They don't have to have 1,000 clients. They can have a very manageable number at 146. Now, we found about 200 clients is about a sound barrier for most advisors. A lot of our Barron's Top 100 practices, they really look at a target of about 1.5 million for an advisor to run with a max of 200 clients. And you look at the drivers, it goes back to what I mentioned before, revenue per advisor, revenue per client. How can we increase both? The way to increase your revenue per advisor is to help them work with quality clients, number one, and help them do more with those clients and drive that revenue up. So that it's really, there's some limiting constraints there, but if they can push those particular metrics, that's the key to overcoming the constraint of capacity.
Okay, that's making perfect sense. You take the industry averages and you say, okay, what are the ones that have already done this and scaled? What is the average advisor? Average advisor has 146 clients, right? And producing $1.5 million in total revenue, I guess, to the company, right? Is what it sounds like. And then maybe 200 at the max. Some of them might have higher capacity there. And then the second thing is, or before that, the previous is the founder is getting out of the client meetings entirely, right? And just focusing on building the advisors to have more capacity. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah, that's the extreme. Now, if you're listening, you don't have to completely eject from, working with clients. It could be working with less because you're the growth engine. Right? Mm-hmm. If the growth engine's clogged up, it's not going to grow. You've got to find ways to bring in more business, right? You've got to bring in more clients, more assets into the door. In the organic things, usually get the practice to a certain point, but it doesn't make a big difference. Someone that's managing $1 billion that brings in 100 million in new assets, net new assets annually, that's great, but it's 10% growth. If you want to grow by 25% growth, you might have to have maybe an acquisition in there on top of the organic growth to get you to your growth rates. And the bigger you get, looking at firms that manage 15 billion AUM, their organic growth just isn't enough. They need to be constantly on the front end. Then they need to build resources like new development department to constantly bring in a flood of advisors to acquire. Right? Thankfully, there's a lot going to be getting out and have been getting out, but it's a different game than just being an advisor working with one client at a time. It's a totally different game.
Okay, it makes sense. And so maybe get a little more granular, right? So these advisors, when you say, look, you own this book of business, right? Is that A to Z? How much support do you get for them? How much do you, in the beginning, I imagine that they rely on you a little bit more, but what's sort of the model to getting these experienced advisors, ideally, right, that are coming in to basically be able to go on their own to run that piece of the business, right? That 1 to 1.5 million of revenue. And then what's the comp look like typically? Like, how are you making it a win-win for everybody?
Yep, these are great ones because you're hitting on the next constraints that come in the scaling game. It's right here. So you've got to have advisors that are effective enough. Now, let me just be clear on the model. We're talking about a model to build and scale your business and build and scale your net worth. This is the path to build your net worth to billion. For any entrepreneur in the financial advisor industry, it's very possible to do. but you're not going to do it by other advisors that own their own books plugging into yours. All right. So there's a lot of big businesses that have many, many billions. They'll come to us and say, hey, we have all these billions, and you break it down and it's like, okay, you only have like a couple $100 million is all you're managing out of this, 9-10 billion that the firm has. So there's models out there for that. Where like might be a big RIA, gives resources to advisors that own their own books. They all plug in, and the goal is to build the whole thing up. Maybe they all sell the whole thing. They all get a higher multiple as a group. But there's super thin profit margin there. You're not going to build a lot of wealth or a lot of scaling doing that. I'm talking about you going out and buying, for example, $1 million, 1.5 million, and you hiring someone for industry average rate, which Investment News says it's right around 150,000. It's been at that number for a long time. Now, this is you handing this advisor these clients. So someone that's a hunter that goes out and gets their own clients, probably not a fit for really building and scaling a business. So many founders think, well, other advisors will be just like me, and they'll just go get a whole bunch of new clients and it'll be great. But they're going to leave you at some point. Once someone figures out how to get enough new business, they can make more somewhere else, and they're going to. So I'm talking about the advisors that need you to feed them. They need you. They're not going anywhere. So you secure the business organically, inorganically. You leverage their time, right? You leverage their capacity to service those clients. They just had to be good enough to service a decent client, right? The industry average client now has about 1.6 million in assets under management. So can they be proficient to service that level of client? That's the whole key. So advisor effectiveness is really important. And a great way to develop advisor effectiveness is they need an easy playbook, right? They need it simplified for them. What do we do with clients? How do we keep it simple? So any of the products and pricing you use, you should just establish as a firm. So there's never any guessing. Probably more about what advice are they giving. And there's probably a small number of things that covers the most amount of clients, right? So it's kind of the reverse of Pareto's principle, where it's probably about 20% of knowledge an advisor would need that would cover 80% of what they're doing. And so if you get a newer advisor, we've seen teams get advisors up and running in a year that are working with all $1 million clients because they have a simple playbook. It's simplified. Now, if some of those things come up that are more advanced, the advisor doesn't know about, hey, there's other people around. This might be where a founder stepped in. This might be where a senior advisor or a leader steps in to fill that knowledge gap there. So it's a key principle there, but that helping advisors is big. We can go a little bit deeper on comp, but that's a big missing link. And for so many founders, their value or what they do with clients is intangible, meaning it's stuck in their head. And so it needs to be extracted and made tangible, which means actually writing it down, having some kind of process. When you have a process that can be duplicated over and over and over, that's the path to scaling. You just thinking other people are going to be like you is not going to happen. So it's not that hard to do. We help people do it all the time, but these are way more important than what like script are they going to say. It's just knowing some of these basics and making it easier for them. How do we give advice? Then we can get into, well, how do you have conversations with other humans and deal with humans?
Okay. Let me see if I got some of this. Okay. Let me see if I can fix my camera too, so it's not swinging out on the Zooms. So it sounds like you want to not necessarily hire hunters is what you're saying. You want to hire those that are being really great at customer service and really deep with the relationships to serve a certain amount of the book. Right. And so, but that also means that you need to be the founder or the group, the marketing, all the efforts is bringing enough leads and clients in, so they're not really closing per se. They're just servicing those that close. Is that a fair summary?
It absolutely is. I'll give you a great example. Barron's top 10 advisor was actually my training manager when I started. And they went back and hired a lot of people that failed when I started. I mean, it was in New York where I saw this, my wife's from. I mean, it was like high 90% fail rate for advisors to make it. You cold called, you tried to build enough business to survive. Most people would self-select out, or they didn't do enough business and they were shown the door. And so the ability to acquire new business is kind of a differentiator in a founder or an owner. So there were really good advisors that just weren't able to source enough business. And so they go work for a bank or do something else. And at first I was surprised. I asked this top 10 advisor, I said, gee, why are you going back to those people? They weren't really that great. They didn't make it. He said, well, they were actually really good advisors. They just didn't acquire enough clients. They had all the skills to really help people. They were actually awesome. That was just the one gap. I can give them clients. I have too many clients. I need people just like them. So it really switched the thinking that a farmer kind of advisor is actually ideal if you're going to grow and scale, because they're not going to leave, right? They're not going to leave. They need the firm. They need to be fed, and it's mutually beneficial. That's where you build a profit margin.
Okay, so is it a personality type? Is it how do you know the farmer versus the hunter? Is it like, okay, there's certain disc profile? Like, do you have like pretty much an ideal, like this is the one you want to really look for, hits these parameters?
DISC, it helps gauge people, right? It's an excellent assessment. The assessments don't have the whole story though. And so those that do this more and more often, they get better at finding, that's my kind of person. That's my kind of person. They've really got to be very client-centered. They have to love working with clients. They have to love talking with people. They just don't want to hunt and go get their own people. And surprisingly to me, but that's the majority of advisors out there.
Right.
The majority of financial advisors in the industry just love working with clients. They just don't want to be in the rat race, the hustle of constantly bringing in new clients.
Right. Okay, that's really good. By the way, everyone, Jon Randall, XFA.coach /build it, XFA.coach /build it. Okay, so we've talked about those two parts of the process here, and then we talked about the playbooks, right? What have you found the most effective way to create the playbooks? The screen share, how much is absorbed? How much are they sitting with, the senior and mentoring? What's your go-to for helping people to get caught up and create the playbooks?
One of the fastest ways we've seen people get trained and developed is by learning the preparation that goes into client interaction. What things are going to be recommended? What things are going to be covered in the meeting? When they get versed in those of what's going to be recommended, then they see it in action, right? Then they're shadowing a meeting, they're seeing it in action. It's the fastest path to learning. So both of those have been really helpful, and that's where we've seen one of our firms has people up and running in only 9 months. They get people from scratch. They could be straight out of college, off the street, doesn't matter. They learn what recommendations are going to be given to the client, and then they see it in action. They see someone who's senior advisor, someone who's proficient. They see them deliver it. So it kind of combos the knowledge and also seeing it in action. So to make a short analogy, swinging a golf club. If you read about swinging a golf club in a book, it would take you a lot longer to learn than just like watching somebody do it. When you watch someone do it,
right,
we have faster learning as a human. So you couple those together to accelerate learning. Now, it works best if the organization or the firm has their stuff together. They have tangible, this is what we do, this is what we recommend, they see it in action. Those are the people, they're the firms that develop their people. They develop their advisors way faster than anyone else.
Okay, that makes sense. What's the next thing? I mean, the next secret that they come across, you're like, these are the companies that have scaled to the $1 billion under management. What else are they doing that maybe it's kind of missed?
We call it client optimization. And it goes back to revenue per client. How do you drive higher revenue per client? So many firms are only focused on assets under management. And we're all trained that way from the beginning. Assets drives the most revenue, so just bring in more assets, and it'll solve all our problems. But what if we could generate more revenue per client, right? What if we could generate more revenue per client? There's a tremendous opportunity there that most firms are missing. And this top 10 firm I referenced constantly is looking at client optimization. How can we get better at what we do for clients? So it's going deeper. It's not just finding other assets, but it's aligning them to the right products. It's adding on other services like financial planning advice services. One of the hottest things in the industry, Cerulli says 79% of investment clients are willing to pay separately for advice. And the industry average rates over $3,000 annually for that advice. So what a great way to drive profit margin or drive revenue per client much higher by adding on these other services. And we're just making them available to clients, and pretty high number of them, almost 80% industry says wants this. So we make that available, we can drive higher revenue. So thinking in terms of revenue per client, not just AUM per client, you can be far more profitable help your advisors be more profitable, right? Your investment of people. That's the key to scaling right there. I see profit issues. These firms that run in low teens or very low profit margins, they just don't have high enough revenue per advisor. They're overpaying the advisors, and you break it down, it's okay, there's just really low revenue per client. So we got to get pricing right. We got to find more things to engage in them to drive that number up.
Okay, very helpful. I like how practical we got there. So get deeper on client optimization, adding more value, looking for more services, doing custom investment planning that's outside of this. One of the things that I think about here, Jon, is, and I think it's solving the problem before the money shows up. We focus on a thing that allows advisors to help especially their entrepreneur business clients are selling the business, the real estate, and they're tired of the 1031 exchanges, and they have massive capital gains tax. And so they're going to sell this 10, 20, $100 million business, huge tax, and they don't know what to do. So either they don't sell the business or the real estate or the Bitcoin, or if they do, they pay 20, 30, 40, 50% of every dollar in tax, and then they show up to the advisor. I think it's the lowest hanging fruit for financial advisors to grow their AUM, because a lot of their clients are like literally sitting waiting to sell that primary home, that business, that Bitcoin, but they won't until the capital gains tax is solved. And so part of what we do is we provide trustee services, and we work with advisors where they'll bring the clients, we'll set up the plan, and then it exits into the trust, and then they just manage the trust funds, right? So I'm curious, what have you found when it comes to capital gains tax referral strategies and the way to grow your business with advisors? Anything kind of come to mind that you guys tend to use or like?
It's the largest clients of financial advisors, what you just described. And so advisors that can get versed at that, they're incredibly valuable. And you said it's before they sell. Right. If you can be valuable to them before they sell, that's the key. And that's where having things like advice and doing planning really helps. We work with an advisor in New York, actually charges 6 figures is his average, just for advice alone. And it's typically working with founders or entrepreneurs before they sell on all these things. How can we get all this right? How can we get the trust right? How can we get everything in place so when you do sell, there's the minimal tax impact, which is everyone's biggest concern. Yeah. So that's a whole niche in itself. Yeah. And we have many advisors that just focus on that, and oh my gosh, you're so valuable to these people. What are they going to do? They're going to refer you to other people they know, right? Other owners like them, people they bought from, people they sold to. All that, there's so many of them just dying for help. Now, what do advisors want? They just want to manage the assets. Right. So they're like, oh, just come to me when you have the assets. We're not really going to help you until you're done. But to give advice beforehand, that's the part most are missing. The ones that do it, they crush it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And by the way, that's what we do. Maybe we should talk more, Jon, because we help advisors build capital gains tax exit plans to basically, grow their AUM. We work with, real estate professionals too, to help them grow their listings, the CPAs who doesn't have a great solution. If people want to learn more about this, you go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. It's capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. You can schedule a no-cost consultation with myself, one of my team members, to learn more about this. The other one that I think people miss too, Jon, it's not just capital gains tax, it's estate tax, right? It's the death tax. The stepped up basis is, especially for people in real estate, plus the people in New York or California, massive tax states with huge, highly appreciated real estate that's illiquid, not diversified, has too much debt that's resetting, and they're above now the Big Beautiful Bill passed, so it's $30 million for a married couple. But if you're selling a $100 million business, Bitcoin real estate, you have a state tax issue, right? And so we focus like a laser on solving that without any charity, life insurance, or gifting required. You can eliminate all the estate tax. But again, back to the advisor, to me, it's instead of trying to sell. I call it like sell the thing that you have, go unlock the capital, go unlock the value, or go provide so much value that you unlock it all just to pour into it. It's like a dam, the water's all behind it, right? And if you don't solve for that, it's just going to stay there, dormant. But if you can unlock it, it just comes flooding in. And so, I think that's one that gets missed too, this estate tax part of it, that I think if advisors have focused more on that. Sorry, my video is just totally weird today. But any thoughts on the estate tax part of it too, or any feedback on that?
Yeah, it's a huge tie-in, and you look at the largest concerns of the clients of these advisors, it's taxes is very high up there. And the new trendy term is legacy planning.
Yeah.
Right? For to say that, that's the new trendy term. But it's so key to tie that together. So I've seen advisors be on the wrong side of this where they miss out. They're just sitting there waiting, they're waiting for the client to sell, just waiting for the assets to arrive with them, and they don't come because they go somewhere else. And where did they go?
Right.
Someone that's helping them with these things.
Correct.
They're helping get prepared for how can we avoid taxes? How can we help your family, your kids, your grandkids, future generations, right? I mean, when you get into hundreds of millions, billions, that's life-changing for many, many generations, and you've got to protect it. We've got to do it right. And so many get that wrong. But if you're not giving advice in this space as an advisor, you're probably not going to get that level of assets.
It's spot on. It's spot on. I couldn't agree with you more. I've been on both sides of this where we're trying to like encourage the advisor to come in, but on the other side where then they ended up, just not using the strategy because their advisor didn't know about it or wasn't sure about it, or their company was, not as out of the box. And I mean, it's just interesting to like be on this side where I'm kind of in the middle. Like I'm like, hey, like, let's work with your advisor. Great. They're part of the team, but then sometimes they're like, they've been golfing with the person for, 10 or 15 years, or the college roommate or whatever. Right. And that, they're just waiting for it. And it's like, but he can still be the advisor and he can have an extra 40%. Everybody wins. And most of the time it works out and they say, great, we all win. But I just think it's such a fascinating world on these big exits and the advisors managing it. I started my career at Wachovia Securities, and I worked for a financial advisor when I was still in college. He was actually my basketball coach in high school. And then I was back for a summer, and I remember just, I'd call it warm calling, because there were already like past clients of his that just kind of had smaller accounts. And I was trying to get him in there to get proactive on planning and, re-engage on their IRAs and all this different stuff. And I'll never forget. And then I moved over to Marcus and Millichap and started selling investment real estate and doing 1031 exchanges. So I saw like both sides of the world. And I go, if people had both and a bridge to do both, and our strategy allows you to diversify into any asset at any time. And so most people are selling like a real estate or a business, and they want to diversify into, a balanced portfolio and maybe some passive real estate and some stuff. And so I just think it's so fascinating that both worlds, and a lot of them, 95% of them seem to be disconnected from just like the lowest hanging fruit with this 84 to 100 trillion wealth transfer, largest in the history of the planet in the next 15 years. But you're right, those that do are taking a wild advantage of it. So let's keep going. Is there anything else that's like that, capital gains tax, estate tax, that advisors if they only knew, or if they were only more proactive about it, could have a major impact for their clients? Anything else come to mind?
What a neat one that I've seen in this space is that I got the stat just early this year. We host a large event once a year for advisors. We had a great speaker that was talking about what is it like working with that upper echelon of clients? And something they said was that only about 6% of advisors talk about philanthropy, but like 97% of the ultra high net worth, they want to talk about it. They want help there. So it's not just here in the business, selling the business. We've had some advisors crack the code on the philanthropy, because a lot of them are 9-figure businesses, right? They need help, they need advice, and they're kind of overlooked. So it's an interesting space, not just in real estate with businesses. I think there's a lot there. I think there's a neat one in nonprofits. There's a lot of money there in significant ones that advisors aren't even looking at, but they're tied to these clients, right? A lot of these clients that are in this space we're talking about, they're probably involved in something. A very high percentage of them are, and you look at what they're involved in, there's usually a lot of assets there. So it's another interesting one to have as a possible niche.
I agree 100%. And I also add to that, speaking about mission, vision, values, and the giving and the impact somebody wants to make, it moves them from ownership and kind of a small world of just, let me take care of myself and my family, to like, oh, wow, I could like change the world for people right now and things that I care about. And it opens their eyes to like, oh, it's more than, it's more than just this. And they know that, and they've been doing it, but sometimes I think we all can easily forget, like part of why we're here is to be a blessing to other people,
Yes.
and be an effective steward with the capital we've built and we've been able to earn. And so I think also starting with or encouraging to go back towards what's your family mission, vision, values for your wealth plan. Of course, that's part of the legacy, but legacy is not just passing something to someone, it's passing something in someone, right? Like for your kids and giving back or entrepreneur spirit or all the, relationships. Wealth is more than just the finances. It's the wealth of your spiritual wealth, your emotional wealth, like your family wealth, like all of these things, charitable giving. When you have those bigger conversations, I just know it makes a bigger impact and helps people to get beyond just the tax efficiency and different things, So I think that's the other thing I would say, just to kind of piggyback up. But when you say philanthropy, expand it to mission, vision, values, and then how that giving can also be a part of it.
And look at let's see, Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, some of the wealthiest people in the history of America. They're giving it away, right? They're big on this. They have more assets for many generations that their family, whatever, have to worry about. Now they're about how can we make a bigger difference in the world, right? They can make a big difference through money in a different way. It has a different purpose now. It's not just I'm trying to get mine and make sure I'm okay and make sure my kids or grandkids are okay. They're way beyond that now. Like, how can we make a big impact on the world? How can we do bigger things? And so when you can tap into all of this for clients, it is such an untapped thing. Only 6% of advisors are talking about this, but in this space, 97% of clients, this is what they want help with. So if you bring this as part of the puzzle too, you connect not only the tax savings, the legacy planning, but now you got philanthropy in the mix here. And oh my gosh, massive, massive difference.
This is awesome, John. Talk a little bit about now XFA.coach, like what you guys do and how. I mean, we've talked some of this stuff here, but give it like real practical step by step. Like if an advisor's listening to this and they're like, yeah, I want this, and walk them through what it looks like to work with you guys and the services you provide.
So if someone wants to grow and scale the financial advisor business, I just find so often they're usually working on the wrong things, which is why we built this whole thing on the theory of constraints. Something we do to help practice identify their constraints is we've developed a diagnostic tool called the Growth Guide. So the XFA Growth Guide, it's something free. And Brett, for your listeners, we'll do it for free for anybody. And if they go to that website you mentioned, XFA.coach/build it, it's right there. You can click on it. It's a 3-minute assessment. We've got this thing so dialed in, and it gives you a few things. One, it'll identify your constraints, what you should be working on to unlock the next next level of growth and scale in your practice. But it's also going to benchmark your business on these industry averages that I've been mentioning. It's also going to show you, here's the growth potential with what you already have that would drive more profits in your business. It's going to give you all those things. So we'll do it for free. It literally takes a few minutes, but that gives the roadmap, right? That gives our coaches the roadmap to see, okay, these are the constraints we need to work through in this order to unlock the next level of growth. Starting with something like I mentioned, like capacity. How can we be better at client optimization? Once we're really good at those, it's okay, how do we grow, right? Organically, inorganically, and you're gonna need people to do it. So how do we optimize our team? How do we get the comp plan right? Which is a disaster in the financial advisor industry. They're all just telling each other, they're giving each other bad advice because not a lot know. So we've got to get comp right. It's got to be motivating to somebody else to want to be on your team, to make more than they could on their own while being profitable. So then when you go through scaling, when you double, you 10x, you have a whole new set of problems you didn't even know about. And what's nice to work with practices that are Barron's Top 100, Barron's Top 10, we've worked through these things. So if someone wants to grow their business to be many billions in assets, we've got the roadmap, we've seen it. So we can just help people leapfrog through the typical things that hold them back, the typical glass ceilings. They grow way faster. And we've practices go from literally 1.2 million to 15 million in only 4 years because they just knew the path. Most of them 10x in about 6 to 7 years we typically see, but it can be done way faster, and it just goes down to the constraints. It goes down to the small number of things and dialing those in, and we've just done it hundreds and hundreds of times. I've been doing this for a little over 21 years at the time of this recording. So we've just seen a lot of what holds people back, but we've made it easy that work on this, not that, to get to the next level.
Absolutely love it. Jon Randall, everybody. XFA.coach. We're going to go to the lightning round. You ready, John?
Let's do it.
All right, knowing what you know now, if you could go back to your 22-year-old self, what's the one gold nugget make sure you tell yourself to do?
Oh, I would go and do these things so much quicker because you don't know when you're 22. You figure it out. But I would find somebody that was in my space today. I would talk more to the, how can I get access to learn from a Barron's top 100, top 10, learn some of these things. Really comes down to that. So you look at, I'm finishing up my PhD in performance psychology. I'll be done here just a couple of months. And you look at the way humans learn, an element of it is knowledge is about 10%. 20% comes from some kind of coaching, mentorship, and the other 70% is doing. So we learn a lot by failing, right? Especially when you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s. It just does it. But how can you accelerate that? How can you get knowledge faster? How can you get mentorship faster? But how can you learn the doing part quicker? Is there other people that have done this that you could leapfrog their mistakes? I just would have found access to other people like that. Because when you're 22, it's, oh my gosh, can I just afford an apartment, and can I buy a ring for my girlfriend so she'll marry me? Right? I mean, that's when I was 22 that started as an advisor. That was like literally all in the world that mattered to me.
Yeah, no doubt. That's good. Okay, excellent. I love that answer. Question number 2, number 1 book you've recommended or gifted the most in the past year?
10X is easier than 2X.
Excellent.
Dan Sullivan.
Next question. Excellent. Love it. Number 1 way using ChatGPT?
Ooh. We use it for so much stuff. It's like our best employee at our firm. We built it to, we built some pretty cool prompts. Probably the coolest thing we have going is we've got a way that we can find out a ton of stuff about people. So we've got a bunch of prompts built in there that we can put in, Brett, we can put in your info and find out all kinds of stuff, like where'd you go to school? What's your dog's name? Anything that's on social media, it just kind of finds info about people. So you can get to know somebody really fast, really helpful for a coach consultant, huge for financial advisors.
I love that. Cool. Excellent. Next question. Number 1 thing you're most curious about right now?
It's this how we are as human beings. It's how that's why I went down this path of performance psychology. We're so weird. We do weird stuff that holds us back. I just in the pursuit of how can we constantly be better humans and learning through this. But it's just, why are we the weird ways we are as humans? I'm most curious about that.
Okay, excellent. Next question. Number 1 leadership quote or theme that you strive to live by?
The best leaders, they care about other people. It's not just about them, it's about the other people. So a lot of leaders, founders, they're trying to get what's theirs, but you can grow and scale through helping other people get theirs. So it's not about getting yours, it's about getting theirs, helping other people get what they want for themselves.
Excellent. Helping other people get what they want, you get everything you want. And Zig Ziglar, right? Which kind of leads us to our last question. And it's kind of the essence of what we do here at Built to Billions, which is to practice stewardship over ownership. So what's the number 1 way that you help yourself to practice, stewardship over ownership, and what does that mean to you?
It's about the people, right? It's about the people. It really is. Any business is about that. Life's about that, right? You look at stewardship in general, faith, tying that in, which I love that you do in this podcast. It's really about that. It's how we making a difference in the world. How are we helping other people? Because if you do that as a human, you do that in life, you do that in your business, it just goes back to the Zig Ziglar concept, right? You can really grow and scale and do a lot, and the rewards will come. But to me, it's all about people, and it's make a positive difference in the world. As long as we're all doing that, the world would be a great place, especially America.
Jon Randall, absolutely. Great, really well said. Great way to wrap up the show. I want to thank you for being on the show, using your gifts and talents to help advisors make a huge impact as they, level up their service, level up their teams, scale to help more and more people in this massive wealth transfer, the largest in the history of the planet happening right now. Keep doing what you're doing. We all need coaches, and especially financial advisors, to help people be great stewards with their wealth. With that being said, for our listeners who want to get in touch with you, would you mind one last time, what's the best place for them to connect with you?
XFA.coach/build-it. You'll see Brett's pretty face on there. You can get that free growth guide that I mentioned. Only takes 3 minutes to fill out. You can click right on there and get it.
Amazing. Thank you, Jon Randall. And thank you to all of our listeners as well for listening to another episode of the Build to Billions podcast, also streaming on Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast and YouTube channel. We're on a journey with you to scale from millions to billions. So we give more or all of it away to help MVPs. My name is Brett Swartz. I appreciate you listening today. If you have a massive exit coming up, or a client who also has a huge exit with massive capital gains tax, make sure you go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com to also download our free ebook to learn about how to basically sell deferred taxes without using a 1031 exchange, diversify that wealth, and be able to unlock more freedom and make a bigger impact. That's capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. Appreciate everyone listening, and we will talk to everyone again real soon. Bye now.